Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to make a statement, your statement, to prove to you what I know and because I want John to hear it someday. And when it's over, you are going to leave. Because if you don't, I'll make sure your superiors know all about every nasty little thing you've done in the name of peace and order, and I'll make sure they are subject to the scrutiny they so desperately want to avoid. More importantly, I'll make sure they know it has all been exposed because of you. Is that clear? I will take that as a yes. If you're smart, you'll go back to the police station and put forward some half-baked cover-up for what happened to your mystery corpse and leave it at that. But I don't think you are smart, so in many ways I'm excited to find out what you do next. Statement of Alice Tonner regarding the crimes and death of Calvin Benchley. Statement never given.
Don't.
Everyone calls me Daisy. I like that because it sounds so gentle, and I'm the only one left who knows about the scar on my back. It doesn't really look like a daisy, more like a starburst, but it's what the doctor said when I got it, so that's how I've always seen it. It makes me feel strong, to know that the soft nickname everyone calls me comes from a bloody wound. And I like to feel strong, to be in control.
I'm gonna kill you someday.
When I was 11, I had a best friend, and his name was Calvin Benchley. We didn't hang out at school much because his friends said I couldn't play with them because I was a girl. But every day after getting home, we'd go to the nearby park and play. It was small, just a scrap of grass and dirt, but if you hopped the fence to the south, you could get into the cemetery. And if you went the other way, you got into an old building site. The fence on that side was broken and jagged, but it collapsed enough that it was easy to climb over into the half-built structure. Our parents had forbidden us from playing there. It was collapsing, as well as being a known hangout for tramps and druggies. We would take turns daring each other to go in there. That day, I dared him. That's why it was my fault.
Shut up. It wasn't my fault.
We had been in the park when there had been shouting from the building site, crashes, violence, then a long silence. I dared him to take a look, and when he didn't want to, I started making fun of him. So in he went. When he didn't come back, I decided he was just trying to spook me, but after 15 minutes, I decided he wasn't. I wanted to run away and get my mum, but I was frightened of getting in trouble, so instead I followed Calvin over the fence. Inside were the first 2 dead bodies I had ever seen. They looked like they had attacked each other with broken glass. One lay impaled on a broken bottle, still holding the long shard of glass that jutted out of the other's throat. There was blood everywhere. I felt a rush of fear and a strange sort of excitement.
You can't know that.
On a broken staircase above them stood Calvin, staring at me with vacant eyes. Standing behind him, I saw something. A hunched figure. I think it was naked. I couldn't see anything except pale flesh and the vivid red of cuts and injuries. Every inch of its body appeared to be covered in open wounds, but no blood seemed to flow from them. The thing was utterly still, save for a lipless, scabby mouth which moved so fast it was almost a blur, sullenly mouthing words that only Calvin could hear. I know they were for him, because with each movement of its jaw, the thing's long, pointed, black tongue would shoot out and flick itself into his ear. He was completely expressionless as that crooked, cut-up figure whispered to him and flicked at his ear with a barbed tongue.
No.
Then Calvin's eyes turned to me. Without hesitation or expression, he began running, sprinting right at me. I tried to get away, but he was faster and slammed into me, pushing me off my feet and into the rusted fence behind me. There was an explosion of pain in my back as jagged metal embedded itself in my shoulder, and then it went dark. The last thing I remembered before the hospital was the fierce pride on Calvin's face as he stood there. No one believed me about what happened. Calvin said that I had tripped and fallen, and that was the story everyone accepted. But after that he was different. Moody. He started getting into fights, and everyone just assumed he was turning into a teenager, but 6 children at my school were seriously injured or killed by the time he left for university. All accidents, of course, nothing that would have pointed to him. But I was always careful around him. The daisy scar on my back, a constant reminder that we were not friends, that he was no longer to be trusted. I told people, but he seemed to feed on the uneasy glances of his classmates and took great pleasure in scaring them further. Even after school, I kept an eye on him, but I couldn't believe he had never been arrested. I later got a look at his file and found out that he had been, but they'd never been able to make anything stick. He was smart and careful. We once almost nailed him for aggravated assault, but the victims changed their story and said they were the ones who attacked him.
You've made your point.
6 years ago, Calvin Benchley became the first human being I murdered. I beat him round the head as he was coming out of a bar, drove him to my usual spot and shot him 5 times in the chest with a handgun taken from the evidence lockup. He didn't beg for his life. He didn't say a word. I don't think he even recognised me. He was harder to get rid of than the vampires, but I managed it, and nobody asked any questions at all. He was a scumbag, and nobody wants to risk getting a Section 31. He was the first human I dealt with like that, but he certainly wasn't the last. Do I need to go on, Detective Tonner? Good. Feel free to see yourself out. If you take any action against myself or this institute, I will ensure the police become aware of your crimes in a way that cannot be ignored or covered up. I leave the matter of Jonathan Sims up to you, though I will not tell you where he is. I suggest you close the case and move on, but if you find yourself unable to do so, my advice is to kill him quickly. There's no telling what he might be capable of.
One day, someone is going to kill you. I really hope it's me.
Good day, Detective.